Okay, now that we have already dealt with the problem supposedly that Peter, James, and John account restoring the priesthood was later on added, that we have actually documents about that, very early ones. We can now move on to the next point, which is additions to the Book of the Commandments, or changes in the Doctrine and Covenants as well. Book of the Commandments was the original version of the Doctrine and Covenants, and how the current Doctrine and Covenants differs a lot, and there's places changed in the in the Doctrine and Covenants from the Book of the Commandments. And then Shazula goes as far as to say that thousands of words added. Now this is no problem to Latter-day Saints at all. If you understand our theology and our way of thinking and the continuing revelation, and that we don't have any closed canon doctrine, then this is no problem at all. And I'll kind of help you to understand it a little bit more now. Okay, the fact that the Doctrine and Covenants has gone through some changes in it, different editions, is never been denied in the church in the first place. If you go to the explanatory introduction to the Doctrine and Covenants, in the second page, in the very last paragraph, it says that number of the revelations were published in Zion, Independence, Missouri in 1833 under the title A Book of Commandments for the Government of the Church of Christ. Concerning this publication, the elders of the church gave solemn testimony that the Lord had borne record to their souls that these revelations were true. As the Lord continued to communicate with his servants, an enlarged compilation was published 2 years later in Kirtland, Ohio, with the title Doctrine and Covenants of the Church of the Latter-day Saints. So, larger compilation was done, and obviously changes were done there. Some books were taken away, and some books were not. And now, on the other page, it says after the testimonies of the 12, in successive editions of the Doctrine and Covenants, additional revelations or other matters of record have been added as received and as accepted by competent assemblies or conferences of the church. Beginning with 1835 edition, a series of 7 theological lessons was also included. These were titled the Lectures of Faith. These had been prepared for use in the School of the Prophets in Kirtland, Ohio in 1834 to 1835. Although profitable for doctrine and instruction, these lectures have been omitted from the Doctrine and Covenants since 1921 edition because they were not given or presented as revelations to the whole church. In the current edition of the Doctrine and Covenants, 3 documents have been included for the first time. These are sections 137 and 138, setting forth the fundamentals of salvation for the dead, and official declaration 2 announcing that all worthy male members of the church may be ordained to the priesthood without regard for race or color. Then it says also that it is evident that some errors have been perpetuated in the past edition, particularly in the historical portions of the sections headings. Consequently, this edition contains corrections of dates and place names and also a few other minor blah 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 blah. So this is the 81 edition. So for the earlier editions also, they always had explanations of what was changed and pretty much why. Now I'm going to give you another example. This example is Jeremiah chapter 36. This is when Jeremiah calls his scribe Baruch to write down a roll, and then he dictates a prophecy to this roll and gives it to the king. And then the king doesn't like what he reads, so he burns the prophecy. And in the very last verse of this 36th chapter, it says that then took Jeremiah another roll and gave it to Baruch the scribe, the son of Neriah, who wrote therein from the mouth of Jeremiah all the words of the book which Jehoiakim, king of Judah, had burned in the fire. And there were added besides unto them many like words. So Jeremiah, after the burning of the first record, added many other ones. What happened to the Book of the Commandments? It was burned also, the manuscripts of it. So, anyway, if Jeremiah can add into the revelations he gave in the past, and then a little bit later on he can add new things into the same revelation, why couldn't Joseph Smith do the same thing? That's just double standard. So, this church is built from scratch by revelation. we do not build our church on creeds or other doctrinal structures by other churches in the past. So obviously line upon line, precept upon precept. Revelation came from God. Revelation were compiled to books. And the new revelation came and superseded the old one, because the old one obviously sometimes was good for the time, that time, and then a few years later, a better, more explained version came. And they decided, well, this version here is not as good, so we'll just put this one. Or, priesthood here is pretty good, but there's a revelation about new office, for example, if there would be in the future. They would include it in one of the existing sections of the Doctrine and Covenants already, because they wouldn't make another different book for that revelation alone. They would just add it there somewhere where the topic already is. And for example, where the United Order or the law of consecration failed because of the members were not able to live the higher law, God just said, all right, take it away. I'm not going to require it from you because you can't live it. You just pay your tithings now. Just try to at least live an easier version of it. So God works according to our understandings and according to our capability, and he gives revelation upon revelation. And Doctrine and Covenants goes through changes whenever new revelations are given, when old is superseded by the new revelation, to make it better for our day and our needs in these times. So no Mormon ever feels threatened because of these things. All the Mormons know about these changes already. It's only the evangelicals who try to misrepresent this with their understanding and their standards that are bound in sola scriptura teaching, that only Bible is sufficient and scripture is final and infallible, all that crap. But we don't accept that view. So obviously we can do whatever we want with our scriptures as long as the prophets and the apostles agree on it. So there's no problem with this. Thousands of words are added and will be added in the future as well.